And part one, I think, is pretty bad, and we probably could have gone a lot more about that. But this is about getting the shows, and we've got half an hour basically.
That's right.
So we're talking about now being a grandparent, and I myself know how precious that is, being a grandparent, and the love and joy that those beautiful little people bring you in your life.
Yeah.
And it's so complicated, this story.
Yeah.
And it's like it's mind-blowing how this all happened. So how about if you tell the story from, you've got these two little beautiful children, to your son. We're not going to mention names, everyone, so we're just going to give them little nicknames and stuff like that. So it'll be Missy, we'll call your daughter-in-law.
Okay.
All right. So let's just start from how this all happened.
Okay. Right, well, my son had, not my son that we were previously talking about, another one of my sons, was in a relationship with a girl, and he had two beautiful children. I was actually the support person, was in there in the birth room when she had the children, and had a very close relationship with her.
I know how close you were.
Yeah, I actually called her my other daughter. I only have one daughter. I've got three sons. I loved her like I loved anybody or any of my children. Anyways, things broke down. Their relationship broke down, and they got on drugs together. And during that time, I noticed that the children were becoming neglected.
We're talking about ICE, aren't we?
Yes, we're talking about ICE. After I was alienated out of their home by them, and told that I wasn't welcome there because I said that I was going to make a complaint to community services about the children being neglected.
And we're talking about, I've seen photographs.
That's correct.
I've seen the photographs of the home where these two little babies were living with their parents.
That's right.
Now, how old were they at the time?
Newborn baby.
Newborn, and the little one?
My granddaughter was, she was just about 4, nearly 4.
Yeah, so newborn, a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
That was pretty damn disgusting.
It was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
It was putrid.
And I know that you shared that with me, and that was...
Yeah, we're friends, and I actually came to you for advice, actually, as you remember, and just to chat, because I didn't know what to do. And it was really hard for me to make that decision to ring community services on my own child. However, I felt that my first obligation was to the children, that they needed someone to advocate for on their behalf, as they obviously couldn't, and they weren't going to preschools or daycare centres where somebody else would be what do you call it? The person that has to ring up and report on those sorts of things.
I'm a bit brain dead right now.
Me too. As a youth worker, I'm brain
I'm a
dead
youth worker.
about the words.
What's the word? Producer? What's the word?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Reporter, mandatory reporter.
That's the one. So they weren't involved with anything like that. So I knew that no one was going to advocate for them. So I actually was also privy to the fact that the children were being left a lot with her mother, who was a recovering addict and was on bute and was living with two gentlemen. One of them was an alcoholic. The other person was on the run, which was her partner. So that was an unsavoury environment. So I ended up making the report. My son found out about that, and then I was alienated completely. I was completely taken out of the picture. So, hence what I did was I rang up and made a welfare call as well after this happened to the police, and got the police to go around and do a welfare check, and the children weren't at my ex-daughter-in-law's home. They were actually at the mother's house. And so
the grandmother,
and as much as they say that these things are anonymous and all the rest of it, they're not. And she was told that it was me who'd rang up and ordered the welfare check. So then that just escalated things to a new level altogether, and I started receiving threats by phone call and all the rest of it. from my son, as well as not as much as was from the daughter-in-law. She was very hostile. She was on a mission. Anyways, after a couple of months, I totally lost track with them, and I was coming down here as at the time my husband had got a job down here, so I was commuting down here on the weekends and then living in Charlestown in Newcastle at the same time. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I'd just decided to move down here, and I get a phone call from the other grandmother, and she says to me, Alana, will you come and pick up the children and have them for a week? I'm moving house. And I was quite confused about this. This was in January 2015. And I said, what do you mean? Where's the other people, the parents? And she said, I've had the children since October.
So when was this?
This was I got this phone call in January 2015.
So she's had them since October.
Well,
this is January.
Yeah, she'd had them since October 2014.
Oh, wow.
My grandson had only been born on the 30th of January 2014. So I was like, well, what's going on? She said, look, they're on drugs and all the rest of it, and the children have been staying with me, and the mother just comes in and out and sees them, and so forth. And they're having their own problems. They've got their domestic violence problems going on, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I went up back to Newcastle, and I went out to Missy's sister's house, where my husband and I collected the children, and we went back to Charlestown. I was only there a few hours, and the grandmother rang me, and she said, you need to get out of there. You need to get out of there right now. Missy is on her way to your house. She knows you have the children. She's absolutely furious, and she's going to get you. She's going to bash you, and she's going to come and get the children. Well, I just absolutely panicked and threw anything I could in the car. And the bag that I'd been given for the children for the week, I just had opened the bag and was going through it, and there was nothing in the bag. The clothing wasn't even appropriate for the children. It wasn't even age appropriate in sizes. There was no shoes, there was no singlets, no nappies. There was no formula for the baby. I just didn't know what... I was already in a state of, what the hell is going on? Anyway, my husband and I just threw our clothes in the car, and we came down here to his rental that he had here with his two teenage children.
3.5 hours away.
3.5 hours away. We just got out of there because we thought, well, look, let's just diffuse the situation and get out. So we came down here, and I immediately rang the police, and I told them because then I thought, well, rightio. On the way down in the car, we were getting phone calls saying, threatening me, and in the end, I just I hung up my phone, turned it off, my mobile, and we were just using my husband's phone, which my daughter-in-law didn't have his number, and we rang the police and told them what was happening and that we were heading to the Wollongong area. And they said, look, when you get down here, just give us a call, and we'll sort it out from there. So that's...
Were they aware that they were on ice?
No. We told them on the phone, and we told them what was going on. And meantime, we had these two little children with us who
had already been with their other grandmother for over a year.
And no, just from the October 2014.
From the October to the January, right? Yeah.
And I hadn't seen them at all through that period. So the little fella... I'd only seen him up until probably about August, and then I'd lost contact with him. So he hadn't seen me for a couple of months, and nor had my granddaughter, although I'd been quite active in their lives, prior to that. It was a big thing for them, and all of a sudden it was dark time, and we were in the car and we were travelling. So... we get down here, and the very next morning I contacted the police here, and I said, could you come and do a welfare check, and I want you to come and look at the children and make sure our house is, my husband's home at the time, is okay, and all that sort of thing. And I said, look, I'm having the children for a week because the other grandmother's moving. I'm not really sure what's going on up there, but this is what I've been told. So anyways, I didn't get any more phone calls, and I was trying to get hold of the grandmother, and the phone number had been was always going straight to message bank, and all the rest of it. And I tried to get hold of the sister, and No one was returning my calls, and so anyways, after about 2 weeks, we were only supposed to have them for a week. I'm thinking, well, what's going on? I didn't know what to do, and I was too frightened to return to my home in Charlestown, as I didn't have any support really up there. I finally got hold of the sister, and I said, look, what's the story? And she said, look, mum can't find a rental. She's actually moved in with me. Her and the boyfriend had moved in because the house had been, he actually owned the house with his brother, who was the alcoholic, but the house had actually been sold. So they were essentially homeless, so they moved in with the sister.
Yeah.
So. And they couldn't have the children back there because...
And that sister's no longer alive, is she?
Oh, no, that was another sister.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Rightio.
But yes, that was a very tragic thing that's happened just recently as well, and that's very heartbreaking on top of all this messes already. And they couldn't and didn't have room really for another 2 children, and were actually now being threatened and getting threats, and had police... apprehended violence orders against the mother of the children, because once she realised I had the children for some reason, she then turned on her own family. I think because she knew that I had already put them in, or not. They said it's putting them in, but I had alerted docs of the situation.
Yeah, because you want looking after your children.
Absolutely, I didn't want and I was trying to sort of. I thought that if I alerted the authorities to the fact that children were being neglected, that they as parents may get a shock
and do something about it.
Do something about themselves as such, and reach help. No, they didn't.
It's full on into ice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ice just absolutely had taken over their world, and my son, who never had I would never have thought for one moment that he would be a person who would hit another woman or mistreat a woman in any way. That was what happened with him,
Because that aggression comes in when they're an ice addict. They're just wild.
That's it.
They're invincible, and everything's it's an awful
and irritated drug. And my ex-daughter-in-law, she was an insightful person too. She used to swear at him and call him a big fat C, and it was just not a very good situation. And all of these things I had been privy to. I had actually seen these things with my own eyes. So it wasn't like somebody was telling me this. I had witnessed this. On one occasion, I'd actually taken the children prior to this and said, look, I'm just going to take the children home for the night, because I knew something was wrong. But because my brother had committed suicide and when he was 27, as I mentioned in the other show, and was involved with drugs and so forth, and my kids had seen that, I never thought my children would actually be involved with drugs. So it's it's just gone on and on, Anyways, as it turned out, I ended up having the children for 2.5 years.
Far out. So that's from the mother.
Yeah.
The other grandmother giving you the kids and saying, "I'll take them."
For a week. I'm moving.
Yeah, and they're so hell bent on drugs, and it's just no way back and whatever.
Yeah.
And you had them. You end up having for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Well, 2 3/4 years.
Wow.
So from when the little boy was nearly 1, until he was 3.5 basically. So I had him all that time. But the unfortunate thing was, when I got the children, in that first initial time, I have a nursing background as well, and I thought that he was actually deaf, my grandson, because he didn't react to loud noises. He wasn't crawling, he wasn't doing anything. He would just, wherever you would put him, and I thought that he had autism of some degree. Where you'd put him down in front of the TV, just and you'd walk out of the room or you'd go and sit somewhere else, he wouldn't come to you, he wouldn't do anything, he was just totally in his own world. And I was later to find out that was just from neglect, because he'd not been nurtured, he'd not been cuddled, or he basically had lived his life in a playpen in front of a TV screen. So that was really tragic, and so I just spent most of my time holding him and cuddling him and singing to him, and loving him basically, and it took a while, but eventually at 17 months old, he ended up walking, and my son actually went to jail for domestic violence for hitting Missy. He did 7 weeks in prison, and then he was released, and he was off everything then and was drug free, of course, because of that situation. However, she continued on that drug path. So he came to visit us, and it was actually the day that he came to visit was the day that my grandson actually got up and walked. It's funny how things turn out. But yeah, so that happened on that day. And like I said, we ended up having them for that whole entire time, which put a lot of pressure on us as a family unit, because, again, we weren't prepared for such things to happen. We were living in a 3-bedroom place. We had 2 teenagers living with us. And so, my husband was working really long hours. He was a truck driver. So eventually, after a couple of months, the kids and I moved down into this little place that we're in now. He merely for the fact that there just wasn't enough room in the rental that we were in. And just to provide stability for them, and just so I could give them all the attention that they needed for that time. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then it was at the stage when Missy, and that's what we're naming her, where Missy wanted to have her children back.
That's correct. Well, she basically wanted them back basically straight away as soon as she knew I had them.
But prior to that,
No, she was quite carefree and happy for the mother of her mother to have them, and her just call in whenever. It was only when she knew that I had the children, because she couldn't stand over me. She could stand over her mother, but she couldn't, because her mother, as I said, was a recovering addict who was on a methadone program, and a very frail woman. She knew she couldn't stand over me. There was no way I was going to just hand those children over to her. I didn't care if she came and bashed down my door. I was going to protect them from then forward. Not that I wanted to take them away from her.
Yeah, but I just want to protect them.
Yeah, I was definitely not going to just hand them back.
A safe environment.
That's right. So,
as any grandparent would.
Well, one would hope. You know what I mean? And I think that as a grandparent, I shouldn't have been put in that position, because it's robbed me now of them. We had a court case that went on because we had to go to court. She wanted to go to court, and the court process is lengthy. It takes a long time to get into court. Then the process is grueling. It is horrible. It is disgusting how you're treated. For having the children, I was treated terribly. My whole life and everything that I'd ever done in my whole life came out. Fortunately for me, I've never been, and thankfully I've never been a person in trouble with the law. I've never been on drugs, or I wasn't held to ransom over anything. However, my children, when they were growing up, had done things, and so then I was, because of those things that they had done, you're made out to be a bad mother, that you're not a good role model for the children. And it's just a grueling process, Kelly. It's horrible. We had 5-day trial, a 5-day hearing, and for the most part of one day I was on the stand, and asking me questions. Look, the only thing I can say is I was their grandmother, and I just wanted to do the right thing by them. And I tried my best, and I always encouraged her, once it was set in stone that all of us, including myself, were all randomly drug tested over that period of time, and she was too. And once it was evident that she was trying to make the steps to change herself and get over her addictions, and and face the fact that she'd made mistakes, and I was very supportive of her and tried to be supportive the whole entire time, talking with her on the phone and encouraging my granddaughter. Obviously the little fella, was hard for him to speak on the phone, but we video called and all the rest of it. And once we got to court, the lies, it was just incredible, because the other grandmother she was totally supportive of what we were doing. She was, if there is a side, if they say, I'm just going to use that loosely about sides, if there was sides to be had, she was on my side and wanted me to keep the children. She actually moved all the way down here and got a...
That's right, she did too.
That's right, she bought a place down here, a little caravan thing, a little mobile home thing. You know, she was coming, we were sharing the load, she was coming here, I was taking the children there, like we were in it together. Only a few weeks before the final day and the final hearing, she swapped camps and she went back with her daughter. Now, I was supportive of that too, and the whole time I kept saying to her, "This is your child, you know. Don't keep. There's no side to be had, you know. If you want to support your daughter, you need to do that. And there's no hardship, or not going to be any problem with me." However, when we went to court, she then went into court and told lies about me and told lies about my family, and unfortunately, my solicitor and barrister, it was just a schmozzle. I didn't get a barrister until the Saturday before the hearing, so he only had the weekend to go over all of my notes and everything that had happened, and I felt very misrepresented, and for the children's sake, because I didn't believe that the Missy had actually changed, and because word had filtered through that things were on the slide, and Newcastle's a very small town. So I was hearing things that she was dabbling back in drugs and dabbling back in...
Did she fail her drug tests?
All of her drug tests were either inconclusive or there was always a problem with them, if that makes sense. So, and it was chain of custody, so they were either too watered down or she was late having them, there was always a problem.
Something.
There was always something. And I did say in court that... when the judge asked me, what are your feelings about if the children go back to the parents, and I said I felt that things would fall down very quickly, which they have.
So that was how long ago?
The children went back in in January 2017. They went back. And I was to have the children, the court ordered, which I find incredible that I'd been the main person for that little boy, that just to see him both children once a month, one weekend a month. And that wasn't one weekend like every 4 weeks, that was one weekend a month determined by the mother. So what she did and what she does and what she continues to do is that I may have them the first weekend of 1 month and then the last weekend of the next month. So they'll go a whole 8 weeks without...
And that's to be determined by her?
That's to be determined by her. And no phone contact was ordered by the courts or special occasions like birthdays or Christmas. Or we had one Christmas about. I had the first Christmas and I encouraged her to come and spend the Christmas with us on Christmas Day, because I know that's such an important time for children and families. She declined, and yet this Christmas, the Christmas just gone, was her Christmas, and I didn't have any contact at all. I actually, in fact, haven't spoken to the children. I've spoken to them once since the 25th of November last year. I had them on the 10th.
And here it is June.
Yes, I had them on the 10th of December for one day. And then at Easter I had them just by chance for 4 days, and in between all of those times I have not spoken to them, not seen them, nothing at all.
So being in their life and their constant carer for nearly 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years to just nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing, absolutely nothing. My grandson was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. That was why because of the neglect about how he'd gone into himself. And the last time when I brought him down here for the 4 days, because I'm only allowed to have them in Newcastle unless it's a holiday period.
How do you do that if you're not living there?
I drive up there. I drive up there. I pay for accommodation in a motel or something like that, and some sort of rental, something. And have them at my own expense. But if it's a holiday period, which it was at Easter for the 4 days, I brought them down here. And as soon as it was so funny, as soon as he saw the mountains, because we call them after their names, well, which I won't say, he said, "Thank you for bringing me home, Granny." And as you can see, this room actually is his bedroom, but whilst my other son's staying here, we've collapsed his bedroom and put everything out in the shed. And you can see from the stickers on, I leave everything is how he leaves it. And he gets quite hysterical to go back home to his mother's. He doesn't want to go.
So now, like, you've got the situation where she's back on ice, or she's never been off it.
Well, I don't know if she's ever... Well, I know that for a period she must have been off it because she put on weight. She looked really well, and like I said, I'm very supportive of her, and I buy all the children's clothes, and you know, anything they need, I try to provide for them. I always send them home with things because they arrive with nothing. She doesn't send anything with them, no shoes, no nothing, and the clothes.
Well, they just come in what they're standing in.
Yeah, which is
So if they come for a week,
yeah.
You've got to provide everything that they need for a week.
Every single thing, even down to their toothbrush. They always come there, and I hate saying these things, but they've always had nits. You know, they're not cleaned properly. You know, when they get you can see all the dirt around their necks. The clothing that they're in is never appropriately fitting. The sizes aren't correct, and I feel bad saying these things because I don't know whether it's just that she just doesn't know how, or does she need some help. And she won't let me in to help her. I've not been to her residence. Actually, she moved and changed her phone number, and I didn't even know where she lived or anything. I'd been meeting her at a shopping centre and had to hire a private investigator just to find out where she actually lived. And she changed the children's schools. So, you know, it's just heartbreaking for the kids because they don't, all of a sudden, they feel like I've abandoned them. Like, you know,
they don't know the truth.
No, and they've told me, my little grandson said, "Why did you give me away? Was it because I was a naughty boy?" It's very hard. So, yeah, there's a lot of pain in our family.
So whereabouts is that all up to right now?
Okay, well, where it's up to right now, I've got a solicitor. I was granted for legal aid. It may take another 12 months before it'll get back into court. And even though she's not abiding by the original court orders, it's just how it is. I just have to wait until we can get back into court. So it could take, another 12 months before she's made to let me see the children. And so basically my hands are tied. I can't. There's nothing I can do. I've just got to wait.
Just waiting, and there's so little. And you know, when there's so little like this, a day is so much more than a day to us.
That's correct. Yeah, it is.
You know, and look, I know as they get a little bit older and they can make their own decisions that there'll be decisions made that, you know, they'll never leave your side. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
I've seen them in your company and I know what they're like when they talk about you, and I know what the other kids are like in your life. And
well, that's right. I have 5 grandchildren, not just those 2. And it's just sad that, you know, before all of this, everything was we were all so tight as a family. They always saw their cousins, and we always
big family gatherings.
Absolutely, and it's just really ripped our family. It's just torn us all apart. It's been terrible. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you know the drill. Like I ask that, you know, you give a message of hope. So, you know, like, you're going to be an expert at this by the time we finish the series, because we've got one more show to do after this. We're just going to take a really quick break.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, message of hope. And I know you probably need a message of hope. And I'm hoping that some of my guests will actually write up in the comments section a message of hope for Alana. Like, that would just be amazing if you could do that. But if there's someone out there and they're fighting for custody of a child,
Oh, document every single thing. Keep a diary, and that was the gift that you gave me this time round. Unfortunately, at the beginning, I started a diary, and then got late. I got complacent, and da 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 da. Keep a diary. Keep a diary of everything, even if you think it's insignificant. Every single phone call you make, what is said, who said what.
Receipts, everything.
Everything. It doesn't matter if you walk into court with boxes and boxes full of stuff. And I listened. Oh, I should have listened at the beginning when you very first told me. And when by the time I have diary upon diary upon diary now. However, yeah, that's the most important thing. Keep that diary. The diary is the most important thing ever. Absolutely.
And never give up.
Never give up. And all I can say is, hold them, love them. Every step, every second that you get with them is precious. Yeah.
Well, thank you to the beautiful people watching tonight. We've got Annette Ray, Clinton Graham, Tricia Hovitz. Hey Tricia, vegetarian crispy pancakes at the Viet King, the best experience in your whole entire life. If you've never been there, you've got to go there. But Clinton Graham, Nat Stanton, Kerry Ingham, thank you Kerry Ingham, Margaret Moffat, Lee Jones, Sue Hall, thank you so much, Redmond Gabriel, Remy Castle, Christina Almond, Vicky Louise Williams, thank you Vicky for referring your beautiful daughter. We'll be doing a great show with her, so everyone look out for that. And Phoebe Talbot, thank you so much for watching tonight, and knowing that no matter what in life, again we say each and every week, no matter what in life, go out, talk to somebody, get some help. Ring Lifeline, tell your best friend if you've got something that's really getting you down. Don't be afraid to share it. Share it with someone that you trust and love, and get them to help you get through what you need to get through. So no matter what in life, never give up, and know that you're going to be okay. And we've got a thumbs up to that.
Absolutely.
Thumbs up to being okay. Thank you everyone. Good night.